All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And greetings all. It is our big jury deliberation show. Nice to see everyone. And guess who's back? Albert is back from England, everyone.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. Albert, have you acclimated to the colonies again? Have you readjusted to our American way of life? When did you get back, sir?
I got back last Friday, but between just the normal jet lag you'd get and working overnights almost, I'm still kind of screwed up, but, you know.
Wow.
But the Giants are winning. The Giants had left since I went to England. The Giants have been winning, so I thought about staying for a little longer. So
yeah, your departure was the best thing to happen to the Giants. For those who don't know, this is a show that came out of San Francisco, California, as a radio show. We were crushing. We were scorching. We were amazing. We were dynamic. We were winners. And then the whole station completely collapsed. And the corporate entity that owned that, among other stations, said, let's just go automation. We pay everybody off and, you know. And that's how we end up here with you today. So that's the origin story of this show. But it's for that reason that we still very much love our Bay Area, and we very much love our Bay Area teams, and we check in on the Giants. So that's what made me begin that little explanation. Great to have everybody here. Kim is our stalwart news person.
Kim, how are you?
And she and I will not agree on everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. The only problem is Kim doesn't realize it's not her show. So she occasionally she'll overreach. Don't you agree with me? Don't you agree with me, Albert? She overreaches a little bit.
There's not a formal power struggle, but there is. It's creeping up. I feel like
thank you.
I blame you.
I think that's a good way to put it. But so far, it's friendly. But it adds a little tension, which is always a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Albert, did you take any pictures or you have any photos? Welcome back, Albert. Giants are doing great, says Daniel Martin. Yeah. Did you take any pictures, though, of you were in London, right, sir?
Yeah, so I found out that all the pictures I took and all the things that I did, they weren't named what they were supposed to be named. Like this thing is you think it's Big Ben, but it's like clock tower or something like that.
So you're saying when you were trying to Google directions and stuff, it wasn't...
Kind of, or you'd go there, like, actually, it's not named this. Like, the London Bridge, that's not the London Bridge. That's this other name for a bridge. And I was like, okay, well, everything's just a lie at this point. But I did take some photos here.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Exactly.
Royal Albert Hall, excellent.
That was great. That's my favorite picture of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or the last week.
This is me at the Tube. Of course, it was raining. It rained 2.5, almost the whole time I was there. But I think that's
well. That's the thing about London and England generally. I just don't get. Is that a real? What is that? That's a drink.
I don't know. There was a shopping area near Neal's Yard, which is like a big thrifting and like a resell type of area. And there was just like a banana themed alcoholic drink. And
wow.
There's the London Eye.
Oh, that's it. Now, did you get on that?
No. I think I didn't know.
Yeah.
I heard it. You're on there for a while. I went to the Natural History Museum here.
Oh, cool.
Wow, that's very cool. Look at you. You really did it.
In Chinatown. I think that's it. Yeah, then in Chinatown. There's one of our rundowns. But yeah.
That's very, very cool, Albert. Nice job. Well, welcome back. Jefferson Graham would be proud of that. I'm loving it. Well, while you were away, Buckingham Palace, Brandon is asking.
Yeah, that was. They're all kind of close in the vicinity. I went to like Borough Market too. I took a whole bunch of pictures with my girlfriend, so I don't want to disclose.
Yeah, I mean,
high romance.
Give the kids some privacy.
Baby girl, don't even play.
Yeah, don't even play that baby girl. Yeah.
Did you do the full British? I did it 3 times in a row. quesadilla 79. I went to 3 different places, did the beans 3 different times.
The question is, did you do the full British breakfast for those who are just listening? Yeah, that was the question on that. Quite the handsome young man, says Ms. M.
Thank you.
Something,
thank you.
the handsome, let me just break that down. The handsome is a great thing. When you say, well, boy, wow, Albert, you're really quite so handsome. When young man is added, it does diminish the handsome a little bit. Am I right? I mean, it sort of feels like it was a prom picture or something. Am I wrong? I don't mean, Ms. M, I think you mean it all 100% positive. But I'm just suggesting there's a little diminishing when you say, wow, you're really just a handsome young man. He
is a young man.
Yeah.
What? Better than handsome old man. I mean, what are you looking for here?
You're right. Maybe I'm breaking things down too much. I didn't mean to be too. I certainly appreciate a nice comment.
And yeah, I'm seeing other things of what I was possibly doing. Fish and chips, yes. I went to pubs. I did all the classic things, but I also did it on very little sleep. I didn't even acclimate my sleep over there, and I still got jet lag. So I'm just.
Did you? It's asked, and I think this is very good. Shadow producer Calvin Wong, The Rod of Equity and Mercy. Did you see it? It's there with the crown jewels.
I did see a little set, and I did text it to both of you. Let me try to find that. I'll try to find that. And that is.
Receive the Rod of Equity and Mercy.
That is our highest honor here on the Mark Thompson Show. We have bestowed it upon everyone who is a Patreon or PayPal supporter, and occasionally then some others, and certainly some contributors. Did Albert have high tea? Asks Liz.
I did, yes. I did.
Now, what is high tea?
It's definitely not the high tea I expected, but it was.
They serve you those.
Where are my weed smokers at?
No, it's not that high.
I wasn't feeling that when I had it, but.
They serve it with a bunch of like finger sandwiches and that sort of thing. Is that the deal?
Yeah, and biscuits and all the other things that we don't call, but they call it. Like chips. Like those are fries, but.
Yeah, that's right. Chips, right? Chips are fried chips. Last thing is, I believe you can get a high tea. Now, of course, I'm sure you can get it in several places, but at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco, they serve a high tea every day, I think. They do kind of a British thing there. It's Palace Hotel is very,
Fancy.
palatial. Yeah, fancy. There it is. That is, I believe, the Rod of Equity and Mercy.
Receive the Rod of Equity and Mercy.
Yeah, alongside the other. Now, are those the crown jewels?
Not the official ones. This is a set that you could buy for 240.
I was going to say they look small.
Yeah, for scale, it's tiny, very tiny. The price tag not tiny, but
yeah.
But it was very interesting.
Comes in a nice case, though.
Yeah.
I did the DIY type of stuff, so I didn't do a formal tour, and I didn't want to pay to go inside. So this is the most I could do for you, Kim. I'm sorry.
I love
really
that.
Wanted me to go get the good stuff, but
that's kind of the knockoff version. You don't want to actually go see it, right? So just imagine it's like that, but it's just bigger. That's all.
It's something that someone who'd set the bar low, that's what they would do.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's an Albert Vacations. We're not going to take you to the actual crown jewels. We're going to take you to a souvenir shop where they sell a knockoff of the crown jewels.
Yeah, I will fly across the pond.
Excuse me, Albert. I need some coffee. It's rich Coachella Valley coffee at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Do order your coffee or tea and use our discount MarkT at checkout. 10% off anything on the site. Albert, welcome back.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You missed some stuff in the Trump trial. This trial, if you are new here, is the trial that of all of the stuff that was swimming up the legal stream like sperms to fertilize the egg of prosecution to Donald Trump.
Don't know if I'm going with that analogy. I just don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of all of them, this is why you need your own show,
Kim. How are you?
Because you can do your own analogies.
Yeah.
But of all of those sperm, the one that I wanted to see least actually is the one that made it to fertilize the egg of prosecution. And that's what we have seen. This is the case of hush money paid to Stormy Daniels and the cover-up of that hush money, and of course the connection to the campaign. And it's that connection to the campaign that makes the entire thing a felony. I wanted to see the documents case come forward. That is the case, easy to understand. His, meaning Donald Trump's, behavior and jacking of the documents, indefensible. Sadly, that is not the case that will ever likely see the light of day. Although, if he doesn't become president, then it's possible something may happen with that. Now, alongside the J6, and, well, I mean, J6 is huge. I mean, essentially that was an overthrow of the U.S. government that was attempted. It was a coup attempt. So anyway, when you look at the body of potential legal situations that may find themselves to the Trump world, this is the one that I really had the least hope for. But look, it's now made it to the jury, and we will review that and other legal questions in... I was just leading up to... This is law and disorder is what I was going to say.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
I'll get to the Trump stuff in a second. I did want to touch on the Supreme Court Justice, Samuel Alito. He, of course, of the many flagpoles and flags that are sending a message supporting U.S. Capitol rioters, supporting a takeover of the United States of America by religious nationalists. All of that is wrapped up in two flags that were flown at the Alito residences. And now the more we find out about the situation with the first flag, that was the upside down flag, the more the Alito explanation, which was, my wife did it, I can't control what my wife does. And as is now said, I can't control what my wife says or does, but I can control a woman's access to reproductive health in every state in America. But apparently not in his own home is he able to handle his wife's situation. But that's a BS story anyway, as we all kind of suspected it was. The more you learn details, the more you see that his wife didn't put up the flag as some kind of dispute with the neighbors. Actually, the neighbors responded to the flag, and that's what escalated the entire back and forth. But leave that aside. The second flag, which was flying at his beach residence, was related to the Christian nationalism. You also saw a similar flag, actually a bigger flag with the same markings, flying at the home of Leonard Leo, he of the Federalist Society. He is a massive Christian nationalist, and it's really his country. Leonard Leo has reshaped America already, and he continues to with his justice appointments that he pushes to Trump. Then they are rubber stamped, and they end up at the Supreme Court and in other seats along the federal judiciary. Now, will Samuel Alito, who finds himself in the middle of all of this, will he recuse himself? I'm seeing, Kim is telling me, in just this breaking news of the day, that he will not be part of any sort of recusal. He says the two incidents do not meet, this is a quote, the conditions for recusal. As I have stated publicly, he goes on, I had nothing whatsoever to do with the flying of that flag. I was not even aware of the upside-down flag until it was called to my attention. Then,
did you not drive up to your own house? Or were you staying in the city? What are you doing?
It's such utter BS, but it's just something, right? He just needs to say something. They are weighing major cases at the Supreme Court level tied to the election in 2020, the attack on the U.S. Capitol. They're weighing the claim of presidential immunity that Donald Trump has floated. I mean, absolute immunity is what the Supreme Court is evaluating. And I might say they don't have to rule that the president has absolute immunity, but simply taking the case is slowing things down. So the election subversion charges are undermined, essentially, from a timetable standpoint, just by them taking the case, agreeing to hear the case, examine the case. A January 6th rioter is challenging an obstruction charge filed against him, arguing that Congress intended that law to apply to people destroying evidence, not storming a government building. This is something else that the Supreme Court is going to rule on. So you begin to see all this stuff is right down conflict alley. Alito has conflicts all over the place. The appeal to heaven flag, which dates back to the Revolutionary War, but has become this symbol for Trump supporters. The notion that, I don't handle the flags. Flags are done in a different department. It's absurd. And as I say,
wife department, right?
The spat with neighbors thing is totally.
I was reading a whole thing on this. This young couple that I guess had an F Trump sign on their lawn and got into a dispute with Mrs. Alito. They have come out talking about what happened there, and there's a whole article about this. I read it on Huffington Post, but it's all over the place. The couple talked to the New York Times. They say this got really ugly and that Mrs. Alito even spit toward their car. I mean, it's just real sweetheart she is. Yikes.
Yeah, she does sound like a firebrand. Right. Apparently the C word was exchanged.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yes. By the way, Albert, who just got back from England, they really use the C word over there. It's like a different thing. We use the F word here a lot. You hear the F word. We're kind of an F word. I'm talking about in the world of cursing, okay? In the world of...
We're an F word country and they're C word country. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Just for those who are noting it, something that they don't tell you in the guidebooks, that's why we're here. They're a C word country. Doesn't offend the way it does over here. Anyway, the C word was part of the back and forth between Alito and his neighbors. But the story just doesn't hold water. The timing doesn't hold water. The back and forth doesn't hold water. And he still hasn't answered for this other flag, the appeal to heaven flag. Anyway, he has answered for recusal, and he's saying, forget about it. There'll be no recusal. That's the situation breaking with Alito. The other breaking news in Law and Disorder is something that I had said. This had to be the outcome. This couldn't go the way it seemed to be advertised to be going, and that is with Scottie Scheffler. I mean, he gets into it with the cop. He probably was overly aggressive and maybe with tone, maybe driving on when the cop told him not to go past this barrier. And maybe the cop was overly aggressive in his treatment of Scheffler. Or maybe he was just doing his job. I don't know. But no matter what, this couldn't go to court. I mean, it just couldn't. It was begging for an apology. Scottie, apologize to the cop if your tone got out of line. Cop, apologize to Scottie if things weren't handled quite as sensitively. It was 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. Don't worry about it. So now criminal charges have been dropped against the world number one golfer, Scottie Scheffler. The Jefferson County Attorney's Office in Louisville saying they will not pursue the case stemming from a traffic incident outside the PGA Championship earlier this month. So they are being dismissed with prejudice, meaning that they can't be filed again in the future.
I think he did shoot a 6 under that same day, which is very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's how you can tell a real pro. Yeah. Shake off that arresting. Let's get back to Tea time. And now to the Trump trial. The 12 jurors who are going to decide this case, they seem pretty sharp. 7 men, 5 women. Corporate lawyer, a woman who called the ex-president selfish. 22 witnesses were called to the stand. 20 by the prosecution, including Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen and Hope Hicks, and David Pecker. He was the guy who was the publisher there of the Inquirer. And the defense rested after just 2 witnesses. They kept talking about, Trump's going to testify. Of course, he didn't. The jury seemed engaged through the weeks of testimony, they say. The summation, the prosecution apparently went on for 4 hours.
Yeah, they laid it all out again.
That's a long course, man.
It's the one thing the defense attorney said was criticizing the prosecution for. He said, get to the point, man.
When Michael Snyder comes in, he's our film reviewer, the culture blaster. And he says there's a really compelling movie, and it's 4 hours. But I go, you know what, dude? Stop right now. I'm not going to go see it. I don't care what revelations are there. I think, pacing and management of time, when you have people sitting there in a courtroom, it's important. Look, I'm not saying they aren't going to win the case or whatever. I just think guys got to take it under 4 hours. I mean, it's like what's happening to movies in America now. Everything's over 3 hours. There's nobody in the cutting room telling the director, you got to cut out 20 to 30 minutes of this movie. And similarly here, but I don't know that that's really going to matter, as I say. It just is something worth noting.
They had to give up their phones. So there's not going to be any secret video or secret recordings because they all had to cough up their cell phones. I could never be on that jury for that reason alone.
A man who lives in West Harlem is in seat number 1 in the jury box. He is the foreman. He works in sales. He was a waiter prior to that. And there's an investment banker who follows Trump, holds an MBA in finance. This is just a kind of snapshot. A corporate lawyer, a California security engineer, software engineer, a civil litigator, a retiree who meditates. These are all your jurors. A speech therapist who lives on the Upper East Side. Undergraduate and graduate degrees, an e-commerce executive for an eyewear company, a product development manager. A woman in seat 11 is a product development manager who lives in Upper Manhattan. Her hobbies include traveling and eating. I love it when eating is a hobby. Yeah.
She's a foodie.
Good for her.
A lot of my trips are eating trips, Mark. My whole schedule is based off of the restaurants.
Well, there may be a jury in your future. Apparently, that's what they're looking for in jurors. And the physical therapist, who's worked as a physical therapist for some time, and she gets her news, she says, from the New York Times, USA Today, and CNN. So that's your crowd that will be weighing in on the Trump trial.
Well, they've been deliberating for 3 hours so far. And there are some Trump advisors that say, hey, every minute that they deliberate is good for Trump. One analyst said it's possible that the jury was going to come back with guilty verdicts in 45 minutes. Every minute after that gives some hope for a hung jury.
Wow.
Baby girl, don't even play.
Don't even play with that hung jury stuff.
So we're at 3 hours, so I don't know what that means.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that is the thing. Everybody says, on a jury, there's no forecasting what they're going to do, but you look at things as though there might be something in the tea leaves. And in this case, we look at the length of deliberation, right? They'll definitely have a verdict before Friday. Wouldn't you agree? By end of day Friday. There's no way they're going through the weekend without a verdict.
I don't know. What if there's a hardcore Trumper on there? It only takes one, and then they've got a fight on their hands.
Well, speaking of hardcore Trumpers, I love my celebrities weighing in on things. They feel a call to make a difference. And they're bringing their shimmer, their celebrity shimmer, to the courthouse. Setting up across the street was Robert De Niro. And he was flanked yesterday by 2 Capitol officers, who were there at the Capitol building during the January 6th insurrection or attempt to overthrow, coup attempt, et cetera, whatever you want to call it. And what video we have? Because also in competing celebrity videos, we have, is it Randy Quaid that we have, Albert? Which one do you have ready to go?
We have Dennis. I have Dennis Quaid video. I only have a picture of Robert De Niro.
Okay, Dennis Quaid, not Randy. So Dennis. Randy's a little more of a complicated picture than Dennis anyway. So here is Dennis Quaid speaking apparently on behalf of those who support the former president, Donald Trump, who's on trial.
What do you think of Trump?
I think I'm going to vote for him.
Really?
Yeah, in the next election. Yes, I am.
Are you ready for the blowback?
Well, yeah.
If inevitably comes
well,
Trump?
I think in this election, everybody's got to, I think they're going to take a side or whatever, but it just seems to me, it just makes sense. I was ready not to vote for Trump until what I saw is more than politics. I see a weaponization of our justice system.
Yeah.
And a challenge to our Constitution. People might call him but he's my.
Now, that's a cute thing to say, but he's not just an a-hole, pal. He is a subversive, corrupt, self-centered man who, and self-centered is a polite way to put it, only cares about himself and self-enrichment. And because of that, he doesn't really care what happens from a policy standpoint. Doesn't care about the country, doesn't care about international relations, doesn't care about any of this stuff. So that's why he can say to oil executives, give me money and I will give you the legislation that you write. I mean, that's open corruption before he's even taken office. That's just on the environment and with those oil executives. He also met with other executives in New York City where he actually, I think they were pharma executives, a lot of them, where he said, essentially the same thing. Give me the money, make the donations, and I will give you the legislation. And more to the point, I will give you tax cuts. He was making a point that the tax cuts instituted under his administration roll back at a certain point. There's a sunset clause. So don't worry about a sunset clause. I'm going to give you more in the way of tax cuts. Give me the money. He is open for business all the time, is Donald Trump. That's why his hotel existed. That's why the Saudis, the people behind T-Mobile before the merger, they all spent huge amounts of money at the Trump hotels. They rented out floors at the hotel. It was a way to put money in his pocket. He's an openly corrupt man who had his corruption flag flying in the first 4 years, and it's even more intense in the second 4 years. So that's my response to it. And this idea somehow, it's a cute thing to say. I know he's an a-hole, but he's my a-hole.
I agree with Susan. It's really disappointing to hear someone that you've liked in movies, buy this whole they're weaponizing the justice system thing. It's like, I thought you were kind of a better guy than that. What a disappointment.
I mean, I counsel these celebrities in general not to get into this if they're concerned about their commercial viability. But I also understand, and I've said it before, the need they feel to say something, to actually make a difference, to use their celebrity for those things that they consider a higher calling. And so I don't, like at the Oscars and other award show when they make a point about the environment or whatever it might be, I don't begrudge them that at all. I think that that's a decent thing to do, to use your profile in a positive way. That said, I mean, he just seems like he's a low information guy. He's a rich guy who might spark to the cultural wedge issues that they've found great success with. But apart from that, I don't get it. Anyway, on the other side of things, as we finish up Law and Disorder, Robert De Niro waiting across the street from the courthouse. I don't know if you can rally that, but I'll just tell you, Now, he's an 80-year-old man, but he's a New Yorker, so he's got that, fighting style. There he is. Here's a little bit of Robert De Niro.
I owe this city a lot. And that's why it's so weird that Donald Trump is just across the street. Because he doesn't belong in my city. I don't know where he belongs, but he certainly doesn't belong here. We New Yorkers used to tolerate him when he was just another grubby real estate hustler masquerading as a big shot, a clown. But this city is pretty accommodating. We make room for clowns. We have them all over the city. People who do crazy things in the street, we tolerate it. It's part of the city. It's part of the culture. But not a person like Trump who will eventually run the country. That does not work, and we all know that.
Okay, so he goes on, and De Niro's been an outspoken, to say the least. I mean, he's been a true critic of Donald Trump since Donald Trump took office, and he has had these vitriolic rants that he has produced in a lot of different forums. This one was across the street from the courthouse. He was flanked by those Capitol Hill police officers, and he felt the call to be involved in the Biden-Harris campaign. He does their ads, and there he was, showing up across the street from the place where Donald Trump is being tried and where the jurors are now deliberating. And that's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Can you name a Dennis Quaid movie, Albert? Any Dennis Quaid movie, I'll take.
Albert, thank you.
Mm.
He had a sports movie, a baseball movie, the Rookie. I think it was called The Rookie. Was
The
it
Rookie? Let's just check
maybe.
that and see if the
Google it.
I'm checking it now. I'm Googling
No,
it.
I don't think I was right.
I feel like he did Mighty Ducks or something. Am I wrong about that?
No, that was one of the Estevez. I think
was
it
it?
was Dennis Quaid, The Rookie. Yep, I was correct. It was.
Wow! Congratulations.
It was a very average baseball movie, but I was into baseball movies growing up. They're all over the place.
He struggled with addiction. He's a Christian coming to faith around 1990. He wrote the Christian song On My Way to Heaven. Past abuse of cocaine. In a candid interview, he talked about his cocaine abuse. Good for him for kicking that. He's done some good stuff, you know. He's a good actor, right? Good actor. He played Ronald Reagan in a film about Reagan. In fact, the film was called Reagan. That's how you know you're going to get something about Ronald Reagan. When the film is called Reagan, pretty much tips what it's about. And he's won a bunch of different awards. Look, it's a big deal that he came out, you know, as full-throatedly as he did for the former president. Anyway, speaking of coming out full-throatedly, I have to get to John Rothman. There he is playing Reagan. Good hustle getting the pick. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I actually would be curious to see that movie. I think there's been a, if I can say it, a reconstituting of Ronald Reagan's term as president to gloss it up a little bit. I mean, ask John Rothman about that. I mean, not that it's necessarily relevant to today's events, but I do think many people can, well, I'm a Reagan Republican. I'm a Reagan Republican. What does that mean? That's a glorified notion about what Ronald Reagan's term was really about. Anyway, and you keep it vague and sounds good, but I don't know what people really mean by that. What are we doing here, Albert, in terms of time? Do I go right to Rothman, or do I do some news and then go to Rothman?
Maybe like a long sweeper, so you get a mini break, and we'll get to a supersized news at the top of the hour with Kim. We're pretty
okay. Very cool. So you will hear Rothman in just a moment. Smash the like button like a boss, if
with
you
your
would.
Iron rod.
John Rothman is a great historian and a political commentator, former colleague of ours at KGO Radio, and I'm going to welcome him in a moment. But first, we like to provide a little time to sip a cup of coffee. Coachella Valley Coffee.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Why are you yelling?
That's not fake. That's real.
It's fantastic.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Yes, we are here for you on Wednesday, May 29th. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is there on the screen. Just to remind you, that's one of the organizations, groups, companies that contributes a little bit to keeping the show on the air. And we're so grateful to have them. I was a Coachella Valley coffee drinker for years, literally, before they joined the show. And I'm just delighted that they're here. I'm a big coffee guy. I have 3 different burr grinders. I have an insanely cool and complicated espresso machine, not one of those automated deals. So I like a lot about coffee. I just made stovetop espresso today. So I think I've got a good palate for distinguishing coffees. And Coachella Valley Coffee is the best coffee I've ever tasted. So I encourage you to check it out. It's a sustainably grown coffee. Everything about them from the standpoint of the process of getting the beans and roasting the beans and getting the beans to you is done right. And you get a discount at checkout. Mark T. Put that in there. Mark T. That's the code for 10% off anything on the site. So if you get a subscription to coffee, if you get merch at the site, if you get tea, they've got some great teas. And they have a whole world there at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I encourage you to check it out, but I really encourage you to use that discount code because you get 10% off anything that you order. Mark T is the code at checkout. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
As I was saying before, he's the former talk show host at KGO Radio. He's a lecturer, a presidential historian, an author. There was buzz around this guy, maybe the next mayor of San Francisco. I think a lot of that buzz was started by this guy. I mean, I'm sorry. Here's John Rothman. I just think, where did that buzz come from? I'm thinking
a lot of my supporters here in San Francisco, but I took the line of Calvin Coolidge. I chose not to be a candidate for mayor because I'd rather be on the Mark Thompson program.
Oh, thank you, John. Well, we love our visits with you on Wednesday, and I will get to as many things as I possibly can. And I want to start with the Trump stuff because I do think that that's the most relevant on this day. No one knows where this is going to end up. It's an odd case, as I was saying, to bring first. But give me some thoughts on this case and how you think the outcome may influence the election or people's vision of Trump, what they've said in terms of him being convicted, how they might act after that. What do you think?
Well, if he is found guilty, and it's a big if, we're waiting now. This verdict could come anytime or it could come at the end of the week. We just don't know. But if he's convicted, the one thing that is clear is that Donald Trump and his supporters have waged a campaign to say that a guilty verdict would not be fair, nor would it be accepted. That essentially they're accusing the Biden administration of putting in the fix, which of course is ridiculous. I believe this goes to the very essential morality of Donald Trump. I don't think Michael Cohen is on trial. I think Donald Trump is on trial. And I believe that Michael Cohen presented a cogent case, despite the fact that he's a convicted liar. But what he did bring in was written evidence. And that's what I think will be the critical factor if Trump is found guilty. So we have to wait and see. The most important element here is how will it affect his supporters? And we know that about 20% of Trump's people, the supporters in the polls, say that were he found guilty, they would not vote for him. Is that true? Not true? We'll have to see.
It seems as though they're ready to overlook a lot in their
They
vote
are.
for Trump.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
By the way, Mark, think about all the listeners that listen to us who overlooked our shortcomings.
Oh, good point. Never even thought of
I
that. But it is true that we as Americans, and I think worldwide, just as human beings, we tend to spark to someone, a leader, based on a bunch of things that don't necessarily reflect policy, that reflect some sort of visceral emotion that that person evokes. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I do a program on problems of political leadership in America. And it's a very interesting thing to define. You mentioned Ronald Reagan earlier, and I knew Governor Reagan, knew him rather well. And I call him Governor Reagan because that's when I knew him. I didn't know him as president. Ronald Reagan was very far to the right, took some absolutely ridiculous stands. But when he became president, he understood that he had to run to the center. And so his positions became more acceptable to the American people. And his vision of morning in America, morning, is what distinguishes Reagan Republicans. But it's interesting. There are very few Reagan Republicans around. They do not stand up and say, I'm a Reagan Republican anymore, because they have no place for them in the Republican Party. And I would remind you that one of the most vigorous critics of Donald Trump is Ronald Reagan Jr., who has been outspoken in his positions, and also their daughter Nancy, Nancy Davis, as she goes by. So, what can you say except the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan is dead? It's
strange you say that, because I do hear people, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the idea somehow that people characterize themselves with a label. I hear the label Reagan Republican a lot. I hear it, even as the Republican Party seems to split apart and become this party of jihadists when it comes to, taking over government and taking power and underpinned by religiosity and all these other things. I hear more and more people say, well, I'm a Reagan Republican, sort of the implication being, back when Republicans were good. I wonder if you can speak to that, because I think the Ronald Reagan's administration, and you kind of just hinted at it, was not typified by some sort of glorious time, was it?
No, not at all. And I would only suggest to you that absence makes the heart grow fonder. And Ronald Reagan, as the years pass, and it's more than 3 decades since he was president, is viewed in a more favorable light. And let me be clear, Ronald Reagan deserves great credit. He really ended the Cold War. He did it by outspending the Soviet Union. We had deep pockets, and the Soviets did not. And so Ronald Reagan once said, and I was in the room when he said it, that he was going to not have a nuclear war. He said, we don't need to. We'll just beat him economically. And he was right. That's what happened. But there were many other issues, and I'll give you one example. I interviewed Mike Deaver, who was Ronald Reagan's right-hand man. And Mike Deaver was a remarkable man in many ways. And I asked him, what was the greatest mistake Ronald Reagan made as governor of California? And he said, the mental hospitals. He shut down mental hospital facilities here in the state of California. It took a lot of courage for Mike Deaver to say that, but it's absolutely true. So if you want to really offer a critique of Ronald Reagan's presidency, there it is. He also increased the national deficit unbelievably, but people ignore that. And so if you ask, there are some of us who would call ourselves Wilkie or Eisenhower Republicans. We don't exist anymore either. What matters is the moment. And I always go back to the statement which was made on the ellipse by Donald Trump Jr. on January 6th. The Republican Party doesn't exist. It's the party of Donald Trump. And so we can take the historical opportunity to examine, and you've listened to my shows on President's Day when we do real evaluations. I never voted for Ronald Reagan, but he ranks as one of the great presidents of the United States because of what he accomplished as president, which really meant the end of the Cold War. Would I vote for Ronald Reagan today? Absolutely not. He was not my kind of Republican. So that's something to consider. But in fairness, when you evaluate a president of the United States, you have to take into account what they accomplished in their administration. And he did a tremendous job in that regard.
One of the things I think about when I think about the kind of old school Republican talking points and the labeling is small government. You always hear that, well, I want to get government off our back. Of course, but I think if you look at the record, and this is why I like to talk to you because you really know the record. When you look at the record of Republican administrations, you don't find a record of smaller government. I mean, first of all, you can start with today, and of course, the government is up your private parts now, preventing you from making decisions about your own life if you're a woman. But more to the point, let's just talk about the size of government. Government has grown more under Republican administrations than under Democratic
Absolutely,
administrations.
100%. Yeah. And by the way, you mentioned the question of abortion. I want to remind you that Ronald Reagan signed the most liberal abortion bill in the United States when he became governor of California. By 1984, as he ran for re-election, he published a small book opposing a woman's right to choose. So Ronald Reagan had a huge impact on America in terms of that shifting current. And I always remember Gerald Ford and Betty Ford standing at the last Republican convention they attended, which was in 2004. And they reflected on camera that there is no room in the Republican Party today for a Republican who is pro-choice. But I would remind you, it was the Republican Party that was the greatest advocate for the Equal Rights Amendment. But it wasn't just Reagan. It was Phyllis Schlafly and her whole operation, which moved the Republican Party to the right.
That's the power of the lobby, isn't it, John?
Yes, it's also power. Where is power in politics? It's who votes, who goes to the caucuses, who takes an issue to the people in an effective fashion. And one of the most interesting things for me is I watched the evolution of the Republican Party, and it really began in 1964 at the Republican National Convention, which I attended. The old line Republicans vanished. The Eisenhower, Willkie, Dewey Republicans simply ceased to exist. Now, what will happen in November, and I'm assuming that Donald Trump is going to suffer a massive defeat and that the Republican Party will suffer a massive defeat. I believe that. But the point then will be the party will have to rebuild, and how to rebuild outside of the shadow of Donald Trump is going to be a real question. And by the way, candidates do shift their positions. They do evolve, and parties evolve and change. So we'll have to look at that.
This is the longest fever dream that I can recall. They're going to have a real pivot to make because this is an utter fealty. I mean, just an insane loyalty.
When the Republican Party in 2019 chose not to write 2020, chose not to write a platform, but said whatever Donald Trump says, we're in favor of. They never would have done that for Ronald Reagan. The whole point was there were vigorous debates in the Republican Party.
Now, quickly to Alito, and then I want to get to something that Nikki Haley did related to the conflict in Gaza. The Alito thing is deeply troubling just on its face before you hear these absurd explanations. My wife did it, which is clearly not the case. I mean,
I blame everything on my wife, too.
Yeah. Well, and then he's got the second flag, and he hasn't even addressed how that ends up there. This second flag is a religious nationalist type flag.
Can you imagine that a justice of the Supreme Court doesn't understand that a flag upside down is a sign of distress? Even I know that, for God's sake.
Well, he didn't say he didn't know it. He said that it was his wife who did it.
He began by saying he didn't know. But the point
I thought he said he didn't know about the flag. You're saying he said he didn't know about the fact that an upside down flag is a sign of distress.
That's what he said.
I didn't realize.
Beginning.
Yeah, that's
so. All I can tell you is Sam Alito should follow the example, and so should Clarence Thomas of Bill Rehnquist, who recused himself in the United States versus Richard Nixon because of his conflicts of interest. And there is no excuse here. But remember, the Supreme Court, like the Senate and the House, make their own rules in terms of discipline, and that no one can interfere with that. So as long as a justice of the court, under the current rules, says, that's it, I'm not going to recuse myself, there is no alternative. There is no.
Well, you have something at the Supreme Court level, though, John Rothman, that you don't have in the Senate and the House, and that is you have a group of people who likely won't curb their dog. They won't call you into question after you've stated that you won't recuse yourself. In other words,
that's true in the House and Senate as well.
Well, is it? I mean, well, maybe it may be true on recusal, but you have ethics committees that will then bring to their committees any number of situations that run afoul of Senate or House ethics, don't you?
No, Senate or House rules. Ethics is a very difficult question to resolve. If a senator chooses, and we have the Speaker of the House of Representatives, by the way, has outside of his office the flag that was flown right outside of the summer home of Justice Alito. No one is asking him to recuse himself on these matters. I think what's interesting about the Supreme Court is there is no governance of the court. There are no rules which are enforced on the court. And
well, I mean, you're saying the same thing that I just said, John.
Why are you yelling?
There are no. They enforce their own rules.
That's
he
correct.
says, "I'm not going to recuse myself." It's done. I mean, there's not. Whereas, but help me understand something. Maybe I don't understand it properly. You look at a senator like Menendez, for example. I mean, this is a guy who's had an ethics. He's been called before the Senate Ethics Committee, and he's been reprimanded by the Senate Ethics Committee.
He's still receiving the highest security clearances, and no one is talking about expelling him from the Senate.
No, but the fact that you can be called on the carpet by your colleagues does exist in the Senate. But you're saying the effect of that is negligible. It's zero.
Menendez can still vote.
Right.
Nobody's taking away his right to vote. To be expelled is a whole other question. And there is no expulsion from the Supreme Court. So this is something we all have to consider. And when Bill Rehnquist recused himself in the Nixon case, he did so very clearly, and he explained why. Clarence Thomas's wife, for God's sake, Clarence Thomas has no business ruling on a case like this. But nobody can stop him, not even the Chief Justice of the United States.
I'm just thinking of Dennis Hastert. He was thrown out, wasn't he?
Nope. He was convicted of a crime, and he's in jail to this day.
That he was in a.
But it was a criminal case.
And you're saying that, but you're saying that he never was thrown out of office.
No.
All right, now to the Middle East. The thing that was there's a lot going on with Gaza. What's interesting from a political standpoint, because I feel like as though that's really something that you're so good on, is the politics of it. Nikki Haley signing these Israeli artillery shells is about, in a situation that is murky on some level, and war is so loathsome, and bombing and shelling is so destructive. It's always odd to me that the politician like Nikki Haley feels the need to have a photo op with her signing the Israeli artillery shells.
It was ridiculous. It has absolutely no place in our system. But what she was trying to do is to say, I'm a firm supporter of Israel. I believe in what Israel is doing. Let me point out to you, even Benjamin Netanyahu said what happened was an error, although it turns out, and there'll be an investigation, but you've read the same reports I have, that Hamas had a munitions dump. The Israelis dropped their bomb, and then everything went berserk because they hit a munitions dump, and that's how innocent people died. People had better understand, and I don't like the politics Nikki Haley is playing. I certainly wouldn't vote for her for president, but I want to be clear about this. What she's doing is what, frankly, Joe Biden has done. Joe Biden is saying, I support Israel. I'm not going to limit supplies going over. They have not crossed the red line. That's what Admiral Kirby said this morning and last night. And the Israelis are caught on the horns of an existential dilemma. Hamas says they're going to destroy them. And I don't know if you've noticed the latest, but the United Nations agency dealing with the nuclear issues says that Iran is continuing to upgrade its nuclear fuel to the point that it is very close to being able to build a nuclear bomb.
John, why didn't the Israelis come out in support? This is back, during the Obama administration when the deal was. Why didn't they come out in support of the Iran nuclear deal?
Because the nuclear deal was a joke. It meant
A joke
nothing. We all
in what
know
way?
that now. The Iranians were violating the agreement all the way along. And the Israelis said, we're not going to go along with something like this. Do you remember Prime Minister Netanyahu came to the Congress and spoke against the nuclear deal? Because
I know that they were very much against it, but it was a verifiable nuclear deal, was it not? You could actually see,
it was
based
not.
on inspection, whether there was fissile material
No,
being
I
moved.
differ. It was not an agreement which the Iranians were either willing to abide by, and we now know from their own nuclear development, even when that agreement was in place, that they didn't follow it. So it's a problem.
there were monitors and there was a system essentially set up to monitor the development of a nuclear weapon and nuclear technology in Iran. Now you have no such thing because we pulled out of that deal. But I'd be curious why the Israelis were not for it.
They did not observe the agreement. So while the world sat back, Iran continued to develop their nuclear capability. So
you're saying it wasn't enforced.
Absolutely. And the UN says it itself.
Right.
And now, let me point out to you, the United States has said they want to get back into a nuclear deal with Iran. And what luck are they having? None. Zero. And if you read the latest report from the United Nations, the Iranians are proceeding to develop a nuclear capability. That's a problem. And interestingly enough, there were many who speculated that when Iran attacked Israel, and remember, Iran attacked Israel directly, the United States sprang to Israel's defense, but the decision was made not to go after the nuclear capability that Iran has, at least for the time being. I can tell you that the development of an Iranian nuclear weapon would be the ultimate disaster. And not only the United States knows it, the Sunni Arab nations understand it. Saudi Arabia understands it. And one of the reasons Saudi Arabia is still interested in a deal with the United States is to try to check Iran.
The situation in Gaza is grim.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem as though the stories emerging out of Gaza are getting any more positive. There is, as you suggested, an embedded terrorist organization, well-developed, well-armed, and that organization is embedded in civilian populations. As I look at the months ahead, John, I'm really downcast about it. I don't know what happens.
The Israeli government announced today this to take another 7 months, and you can just imagine the turmoil that will take place. You know, the thing is, I understand a country's need to defend itself. Believe me, I understand that, whether the United States or Israel, anywhere else. But I also understand that when you have these kinds of sustained bombings, you create more terrorists. And I can tell you very clearly that the Israelis, I don't know if they have a choice, because, listen, while we're talking, there were 3 or 4 missiles fired by Hamas, which hit central Israel. I mean, this is a constant thing. And remember, there are now about 70,000 Israelis in the north who cannot go back to their homes because Hezbollah is raining down rockets on northern Israel. No one talks about that. And I think it's something we need to understand.
Well, this entire situation has become immensely, and I think that you note it quite appropriately for, you know, what's happening, those shells that you're talking about coming out of southern Lebanon. All of it, destabilize a region that was achieving stability prior to October 7th. I mean, that's one of the reasons that Hamas struck Israel on October 7th, the normalization of relations potentially.
That's correct. They don't want normalization. They want Israel's destruction. People talk about a two-state solution. Can I just be clear about this? I've been an advocate of a two-state solution for many, many decades. But who in their right mind would want a Palestinian state created on the West Bank? You know, at its narrowest point, the old border of Israel was only 9 miles wide. I have a confession to make to you, Mark. I know people who jog 9 miles every day. I am not one of them.
Right.
Nor are you, I would suggest.
Yeah. I want to turn back to politics with my boyfriend, John Rothman, for 1 second and get away from Israel and Hamas, although I'm happy to talk about it further, and we'll talk about it with some other sources beyond just John, but I'd like to visit someone who has some knowledge of the region and some history of the region. Elise Stefanik, who I actually thought might be tapped to jump on the Donald Trump ticket as vice president. Now I don't see it as much. But anyway, she is now calling for an investigation into Justice Juan Merchan. He's presiding over this New York trial to determine, quote, whether the required random selection process was in fact followed. In other words, she claims Merchan's a Democrat. He is someone who has supported Democratic candidates in the Democratic Party in the past. And all of a sudden, he's the judge who is presiding over this Trump case. The thought is that this is a less than random process, and somehow justice is being, and this is, the talking point that we heard from Dennis Quaid earlier, being weaponized against the former president. Thoughts?
Well, look, the Republicans are going to blast this verdict no matter if it convicts Donald Trump. This doesn't surprise me at all. There is a lockstep by the Republican leadership, and Stefanik is number 3 Republican on the House of Representatives, to support Donald Trump no matter what. And so this doesn't surprise me at all. What's tragic is that Stefanik was once a moderate Republican. She's now a Trump Republican. And that's part of the tragedy of the Republican Party. But understand, you have Donald Trump spearheading this opposition, and you had Republican members of Congress going to New York to sit in the courtroom and outside the courtroom for the purpose of blasting what was going on in the court, simply because it became partisan politics. And if you allow courts to become a partisan staging ground, you get the kind of result we're getting. I am going to be interested in this, Mark, and I'll be watching it. And if you want me to come on anytime after the verdict, I'm happy to do it. If Donald Trump is convicted, watch the Republicans go nuts and watch Elise Stefanik go nuts. They are laying the groundwork for saying that Donald Trump they're trying to destroy him, and they're going further. They're saying they may not accept the election results in 2024. Can you imagine the leadership of the Republican Party, including the Speaker of the House and Elise Stefanik, doubting the results of 2024? If our political leadership does not have faith in the fairness of the election, do you know that the Republicans want to put a measure before the people which says that the greatest threat to America is foreigners voting in our elections? That's what Speaker Johnson said. There are no foreigners voting in our elections that would make any difference. Maybe 1 or 2, but there are no major cases. And you may remember that Donald Trump set up a commission after the 2016 election to investigate all this fraudulent voting. And you know what happened? Nothing, because they couldn't prove a...
Well, I remember that quite clearly, and I thought that's how I know that this guy is going to waste taxpayer money and time with crap to cover his tracks on ridiculous stuff. His statement and his assertion was that millions had voted in New England. This was in
California.
Yeah, millions have voted illegally.
Elise Stefanik has bought into this line. And the best answer to Elise Stefanik, to be very honest with you, is Liz Cheney, who had that position in the Republican leadership and who's blasting it because she's saying this is ridiculous. All I can tell you is these Republican leaders are not worthy of being called Republican leaders.
Well, they've fallen in line behind this guy Trump without question. And Stefanik clearly wants to be VP, although I think, it looks like Tom Cotton is he's the front runner now.
Tom Cotton would be a disaster. Tim Scott would be a disaster. I'm telling you, Vance out of Ohio, listen to these people. And they will not say that if they were vice president of the United States, they would do what Mike Pence did, because Donald Trump is demanding loyalty. Now, this is not a joke. And when Joe Biden says that American democracy is at stake, he's absolutely right. And we are going to see, depending upon what this jury verdict is, one of 2 things will happen. Either he'll be found guilty, in which case Trump will appeal automatically, and the Republican base will agree with him, whether they're fact to it or not. But the second thing that could happen is the attack on our justice system. May I remind you that the Republicans attack, and Donald Trump attacks Joe Biden for politicizing the judicial system. All you have to do is read Donald Trump's statement. That's exactly what he intends to do. He says, elect me and I'll put the Justice Department to work to clean this stuff out. And I think that is the contrast that the American people will have to make. And
it's a remarkable thing that he's been as upfront with his plans to weaponize, I mean, really weaponize these instruments of government, Justice Department, IRS, et cetera. This is all ready to go.
The Time magazine cover story on what he'll do if he's president. And better than that, read the January 2025 project report.
That does lay it all out. And
have you done a program on that report?
We should do, this is the thing, though. We don't do the kind of show where we dedicate an entire show to something like that.
Let's give me a 15-minute segment with you talking about the January 25th.
Okay, maybe I'd love to do a half hour. I don't mind doing a half hour. And I don't even mind doing longer than a half hour. But
I'm your servant.
We don't go wall to wall on stuff like that for a whole 2 hours. Hey, John, love talking to you. Again, Around the Political World with John Rothman is his daily podcast.
And The Voice of San Francisco, which is 10 minutes on San Francisco politics, Monday through Friday, and we're really going to emphasize that. But I'm also looking forward to joining you next week during
for
your
June
special
Swoon.
session.
It is June Swoon. It's just a handful of our show supporters, listeners, viewers. Rothman will be part of it. Josh Mankiewicz from Dateline NBC. Also, Jim Avila, a former senior correspondent at ABC, a longtime White House correspondent, now an investigative, heads up an investigative unit for an ABC in San Diego. They'll all be there.
Can I just close by saying, if you were not on time to get into the podcast, do support the Mark Thompson program.
Yeah.
The only way a program like this, which offers diverse opinion and where you can hear genuine discussion, the only way it works is if you support it. So maybe you can put up there, Albert, how to support the Mark Thompson
Yes, Albert.
program.
Maybe you can do something, Albert, to put up there how you can support the Mark Thompson show.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, you did it. See, your voice, like the voice of God.
Patreon and PayPal. The links are under every video. John, we love you, love our time together, and we look forward to our next visit. John Rothman, everybody. Bye, John.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is the Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
What a day. Rothman in rare form, working in that plug for supporting the show. He always works it around to supporting the show. I love that. It's a kind of a feature.
Baby girl, don't even play.
Don't even play, baby girl. I love it when he does that. Yeah, that's our John Rothman.
Do you know what we're here for?
We are here for Kim's News, which is upcoming, and then Belinda Waymouth, which it's a segment I look forward to every week. It's The Planet Stupid. We feature news of the environment and of the planet. Any other breaking news will be covered in the next few moments. Is Kim ready? Because I don't want to force it on her.
Baby girl, don't even play.
That's our new toy. That drop. Baby girl, don't even play. So,
yeah, I'm not sure if Kim's ready here.
Yeah, I don't know where Kim is.
I'm ready.
If Kim's not ready, then...
Kim, how are you?
Okay. Is there a problem, Kim? Are you dejected about something?
Yeah, I have a child problem, but it's fine. We'll move
move
forward.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is it fine or not? Do you need to go take care of it? We can do the show. Seriously.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
Okay.
We'll move forward. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Somebody's in trouble. That's all.
Okay. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Busted.
Smash the like button like a boss.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Right. We've got to get one of Kim's
They
kids
do
out
this
of
to
prison.
me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need the bail money.
We need some bail money, kids.
Yeah,
Come on.
no,
I
it's
mean,
not that
don't
serious,
even
but yeah.
play with that.
Baby
That's not
girl,
fake.
don't
That's
even
real.
play.
Right. All right, Kim's News, and we continue. That's the Planet Stupid. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. Of course, we'll talk about Trump because he is insinuating now that the jury in his hush money criminal case will convict him. After the jury started its deliberations, Trump once again called the trial a political scam. He's charged with 34 counts, each charge carrying a maximum sentence of 4 years. Those counts would probably run concurrently, meaning he could see 4 years total. If guilty, the judge has the discretion to reduce the sentence to a fine or give him probation or supervision. Despite this, most legal scholars say it's a long shot that Trump would actually be incarcerated if he was found guilty.
Yeah, he's not going to jail.
No. So, yeah. In Texas, hundreds of thousands of people are still without power after severe storms slammed into the northeast region of the state. We're talking tornadoes, gusty winds that blew trees down. Power outages are expected to be a multi-day issue in Texas. Despite inflation at the grocery store and record high interest rates, the stock market's been on a tear this year. The Dow reached an all-time high of more than 40,000 earlier this month. The S&P 500 is up about 10% for the year. And yesterday, the tech-heavy NASDAQ finished above 17,000 for the first time ever. Analysts said healthy corporate profits, a strong economy, and moderate inflation, and hope that the Fed will lower interest rates this year are helping keep stocks high.
There's never been anything like this.
Well, I asked Albert, maybe we can do it after Kim's news, check on our DJT stock. I mean, among those who are getting rich on this tear that the market is on is our Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. You know, I mean, he's part of this market with his social media company.
God bless America.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
end.
He's able to pad his fortune. So we will check on the DJT stock. I think it's been a pretty good week so far. It's only Wednesday, but he's had a pretty good couple of days, even as he's not had such a great couple of days in court. So,
yeah. Let's talk about this Lifeguard situation in Southern California. Don't know if you've been following this case, but there's a lifeguard in Los Angeles County who took down pride flags at the beach, and he's now suing on grounds of religious discrimination. His name is Jeffrey Little. He's a captain with 22 years of service as a lifeguard. Last summer, he was required to work next to a pride flag during Pride Month while stationed at a stretch of Will Rogers State Beach, popular with gay beachgoers. It's also called Ginger Rogers Beach. Well, Little took down 3 flags after asking the county to exempt him from its policy recognizing the LGBTQ community, saying it went against his Christian beliefs. Instead, the county suspended Little for disobeying a direct order from his superior to raise those flags. So now, Little has enlisted the Thomas More Society, it's a conservative Catholic legal group, to represent him and pursue the lawsuit during Pride Month.
My God.
The religious discrimination suit names 3 of Little's higher-ups and the county. Los Angeles County Fire Department, which oversees the lifeguard, says it doesn't comment on personnel legal matters. So,
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, guess that flag really offends some people.
It's amazing to me. It's like, dude, put up whatever flag you want. I don't care. I really don't care. But I'm from the sort of I don't care until it's something you really hit something that. But I'm not a jihadist like these people. I just don't understand why. My God, the one thing I really. It shouldn't say the one thing, but among the things I really just don't get is this is the anti-gay thing. I just don't get it. I mean, it's so 1950 or something. I don't, but I understand. Look, I've just never. Why you would die on that hill might be another way to put it. Is an odd notion to me, and so that this guy's decided he's gonna, he's literally making a case of it. So.
Yes, he is. Speaking of LGBTQ issues, there is a proposed ballot measure requiring schools to notify parents if their child identifies as a different gender. but it has failed to qualify for the November election. The organizers of the signature gathering effort say it was difficult to get people to sign their petition because of bias by the state attorney general, Rob Bonta. They sued and lost over Bonta's version of the measure's title, called Restrict the Rights of Transgender Youth Initiative. Supporters wanted it to be called Protect Kids of California Act. In the end, petition workers fell about 150,000 signatures short of the required number.
Oh my, it's all in the naming, and the naming has gotten to be such a high art.
I mean, what about the issue? Who cares what it's called, right?
Well, yeah, but apparently everybody responds to what it's called, you know.
Mm-hmm. American Airlines being hit with a racial discrimination lawsuit by a group of passengers. 3 black men claim they were removed from a flight from Phoenix to New York City earlier this year without any valid reason based solely on their race, along with 5 other black male passengers. The lawsuit says once removed from the plane, the men were told there'd been a complaint about body odor. Cell phone video taken by one of the men appears to show an airline employee agree with one of them, saying, so this is discrimination. The men were allowed back on the flight after about an hour once American Airlines determined there were no other flights available that night. So now we have
look, I don't know, the racial thing, I don't know if you can prove that. I mean, but I just think it is true that when you get on these planes, you are now subjected to the odors and personal habits, which can oftentimes be disgusting, of the people around you. It's absolutely true.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Yeah, Ron gets it. It's absolutely outrageous. I mean, take a shower, clean yourself up before you get on a long flight. This is crazy. The people with their
image
bare
is hideous.
feet. Yes, thank you. The image is hideous. Simon gets it. I'm just trying to say that I have no idea what happened on this flight. I don't know who these people are, but I'm just saying, everybody, let's just clean it up a little bit for the long-haul flights. That's all I'm asking.
At UC Santa Cruz, they're back to online classes today and tomorrow. It comes after protesters blocked entrances yesterday, preventing students from leaving and workers from arriving to campus. The university says that this is not only dangerous, but it's unlawful as well. Protests began almost a month ago over the Middle East war in Gaza. It grew last week when academic workers joined in over how other UC campuses were dealing with the encampments as well. But again, because of the main entrance and other entrances being blocked by protesters yesterday, the classes will be online today and tomorrow at UCSC.
It's just crazy. I mean, these people can't be cleared so that you can at least have classes. I mean, once again, I'm sorry, nothing to do with the issue. Has to do with the fact that this should not be permitted. So you leave the protesters there and close the university? I mean, it's just absurd.
Yeah. And then, here we have finals and the end of school, and everything's back online again. Frustrating. Yeah. Let's talk about Diddy. Diddy. Federal prosecutors are preparing to bring Sean Diddy Combs accusers before a grand jury in New York City. CNN reporting people who have filed civil lawsuits against the rap mogul have been notified by investigators. Combs has been named in 8 civil suits, including 7 accusing him of sexual assault. If presented to a grand jury, the move would escalate the ongoing federal investigation. Homeland Security raided Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami in March. Sources indicated he was being investigated for possible sex trafficking, money laundering, and illegal drugs as well. So now
that's not fake. That's real.
Well, he tried 2 things that we know about. One is he tried to write checks to get people to stay quiet, and so that this whole thing, I mean, it appears to be a significant number of awful things that went down. That this whole thing wouldn't blow up. And then he tried the apology. He went full Tubin on the apology. It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better...
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
And what he said was, the full Tubin apology was, I sought counseling, I had a problem, it was my darkest hour, all of that stuff. But that stuff's not going to work, man, because there's just too much at play here. This wasn't something you said. It was a lot of stuff, apparently, that you allegedly did, some of which we actually have video of. So I don't think there's any apologizing his way out of this. And now he'll face the court in Los Angeles.
This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in lovely Livermore. So nice. If you say smash it with your iron rod, you get your 10% discount at Tenuta, and boy, is it worth it, because they have
it with your iron rod.
That's right. Smash it indeed, because Tenuta has 29 wine choices, 17 reds to choose from, 12 whites to choose from. Great for summer. That includes the Why Are You Yelling red blend.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Yeah.
Check all of it out at tenutawinery.com. I will say that this month marks the 10-year anniversary of Tenuta's tap room. So you think you're going there for wine, but if you have to drag along someone who'd prefer beer, that's okay, because they've got a tap room out there. They can pour you a nice tall one. It's all right. But tenutawinery.com is the website. If you want to go on there, check out their wines, then you can call Rich, 925-699-4576, or you can email him, rich@tenutavineyard.com, You get your 10% discount. And if you buy a whole case of wine, you get 20% off. So, very good. Yeah.
Man, there are a lot of ways to save money and enjoy some good juice from Tenuta Vineyard.
And that Why Are You Yelling red is seriously good juice.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
I hope there's alcohol.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
I offer this sincere apology to you today. No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words.
Calling me a liar? Is that what you're calling me?
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
Morning.
What's a guilty pleasure you have?
Can you let him finish, sir?
Why are you yelling?
It's fantastic.
Seriously, what the Did you really just do that?
What up, everybody? Welcome to our show for a Wednesday, Mark Thompson Show. I'm Mark, joined by Albert, who has just returned from England, believe it or not. Yeah, he was in London, England, Albert was.
Albert, thank you.
And at that time, he took a lot of pictures. He saw London Bridge. Did you go to Harrods at all, Albert? That's a big stop, that shopping, immense, monstrous world of Harrods.
I did. It was very weird when I went there. Just how it was all laid out. It was I don't know. The people working, they felt fake. Like they're just like they were NPCs. They were just going through the motions. It was like it was nice though. It was very nice.
That's funny. That's funny. You've been there, right, Kim?
No.
Never been to London?
Mm-mm.
No.
I've been to France.
Oh, well, that's it. That's very, very good. All right, you get points. Yeah,
Thank
France.
you. And
What,
Germany.
Paris, is that where you went? A lot of the kids like Paris.
I went to see the Eiffel Tower. Mm-hmm.
Good, yeah.
Yeah. But I haven't been to London. I have to live through Albert's photos on that one.
As do all of us. I mean, all of us are really living through Albert. I mean, he just came back from Asia. He was just in Asia like not even a month ago. Where were you, in Singapore or something? Where were you?
Taiwan. I went to Taiwan in March.
Taiwan.
And I have probably Japan in August. It's gonna be super hot, but they think that's the plan for now.
Did you suffer a blow to the head, Albert, during your travel? I'm just curious. I'm asking for a reason. Yeah,
No.
No? So you're thinking clearly, right? I mean, you're the producer of this program. You're thinking clearly? Okay. Can you think of anything that you didn't do today that normally a producer does on the show?
Probably tweet, but
Yes, tweet would be right. That's exactly it. All right. Maybe we can.
Baby girl, don't even play.
Don't even play.
I'm not sure
Albert.
if you saw the comment sections. That's a lot of people have opinions about that drop.
Oh, they don't like it? Oh my God. This is great.
It's a mixed bag.
I want to see comments. Let me spend a moment on comments.
Let me go find them, and then we could go review it.
All right, good, because I have Belinda coming up, and I don't want to neglect that. I also have a That's Rich segment, which I've been sitting on, and I want to get to that. So, yeah, we got, thanks to Trevor, we got the... We've got the baby girl, and we also got from the same hearing.
Do you know what we're here for?
Do you know what we're here for? Which I kind of like. But baby girl is one of those that really cuts through. So I love baby girl, says Julie. There you go. There's a vote for it. It's getting really old really quickly, says Pauline. The new drop is a little loud. I think it's coming in through my other board. That's why. Sorry about that. We have the baby girl don't even play. I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it's up there with when we first started.
Seriously, what the?
Remember when everybody said seriously?
Seriously, what the?
Yeah. I like when people have their own take on how we should edit it. Put that back up there, Albert. Chris says, I'd cut out the baby girl part.
No.
Just don't even play.
No.
Now, Chris, we looked at that. It's
baby girl.
I mean, so if you
don't even play.
He's not wrong. That would make it a truly perfect drop from a time standpoint if you just had don't even play.
Don't even play.
Yeah, but I feel like the baby girl part is what gives it personality. Don't even play is just, I just think, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this to you, Chris, but
you just don't get it, do you?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't get it, Chris. You don't get the part of it that really makes it magical. So, but we value your opinion. Yes. So, AOC yelling in my ear while I have lunch. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, well, I mean, someone's got to yell in your ear. I like it. Keep it, says Ron. All right. Anyway, there you have it. It's so New York. It is. And New York is great. Love the baby girl drop, says Nancy. Love on it. Love on it. Love on it. All right. Before I get to Belinda, you'll tell me when she gets here?
She is here, I believe.
No, okay. Doggone it. I wanted to get to That's Rich before Belinda. I think I can still do it. She doesn't come on until 12. Doesn't her time 12:40 or normally?
Yeah, we have a few minutes here.
Okay, cool. Question, is it my phone screen or does Mark's lighting make him look like he's plugged into an electric outlet today?
No, so usually if I share a screen, I think one of Mark's brightness on his screens will show maybe something different. Like that's the DJT stock. Well, maybe this is black, so it doesn't show. But sometimes if I share a photo, I think. Oh, I see that it makes it look that way. I don't know if it. We're messing with the lighting, and I'm sorry if it's not great for me either. I'm just looking at a full screen now. I don't know. It looks normal. It looks good right now.
I think you look good.
Okay, we're working with it. Anyway, thank you for the input. As long as you put the DJT, can I just quickly look to see, as you know, I've taken all my money, cashed in my 401k, and I'm all about DJT stock. And this is a company that doesn't exist. Again, I'll remind you, it's a fake company, because there really isn't anything but DJT, Donald J. Trump, our Lord and Savior. And he and his name and his ability to whip up excitement is what's fueling a run on this stock. Look at this, 5 days. I am so wealthy now as a result of just this 5 days, Kim. I am considering leaving this show and just going and sitting on my money. I think I just may go stack it up by the pool, which is also filled with money. I'm just going to sit on my big stack of money.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
Very comfortable. That sounds great.
Yeah. The
Wasn't it down to
DJT, Trump
35?
Media and Technology Group. Yes.
It sank to $35. Now we're back up to $51. That's crazy. How does this even happen?
I'll tell you how smart investors, Kim, they buy it on the dip and they take the ride back up.
Yeah.
That's how we're all going to get rich.
There's never been anything like this.
That's right. You're damn straight, Mr. President. I'll see you in the Oval, baby.
Oh, no.
Good for you. Yeah. There's never been anything out. And, yeah, the Saudis are pumping it up. Of course, he's got help from outside.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Exactly. He's got help. People who want to somehow show their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, that they believe in him. They want to buy him. And since they don't have the big money to buy legislation, like some of the other rich people and some of the other special interests, they buy a piece. Yeah. They buy a piece of the company. Yeah. Be aware, saying Saudis are lifting the stock. He loses all that foreign money, and the stock goes down, leaves that stock. Buy low, sell high. This is great. Francine, she gets it. Francine gets it. Anyway, and this is for Albert, who just returned from England. Top of the morning to you, governor, says Ron Cook. So,
my girlfriend, unfortunately, had to hear me call her bruv. Bruv. Bruv, hand over the trinkets, bruv.
Albert, thank you.
Oh, my God.
And you guys are still together after that trip?
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah.
Okay.
If you can travel with somebody like that, that's a great sign. Yeah. I feel very good about that union. Now I've really...
Yeah, we can. I think
I've frittered away the time that I was going to do Let's Rich. Oh, God, I don't know. I mean,
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
No, I'm not. Today, I don't feel like I'm operating. Although, it's not my fault. I mean, you could have pushed me along.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
You could have pushed me along, but you didn't. You went and you actually put the DJT stock up there. You knew that would get me talking about DJT. I mean, it really is your fault, Albert. No. Now, have you tweeted?
No, I'm waiting for us to hit our
Oh,
our
my
cue.
God, you still haven't tweeted?
I'm still waiting for us to hit our cue because I have some elements in the show that must be
Oh,
played.
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah. I mean, maybe you've got some questions to answer now that you're back in this country. We have, we'll have to put you through the whole process. All right. On Wednesdays, one of the things I really look forward to all week is a discussion of the environment, of environmental news, of the pros, of the cons, of much of the legislation, many of the moves that are being made by so many different countries and so many different entities to try to stem the tide of destroying the planet. And we do it in a segment we call It's the Planet, Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet.
Earth. A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet, stupid.
No. It's the planet, stupid.
Our guide for It's the Planet, Stupid is eco-journalist Belinda Waymouth. Hi, Belinda.
Good morning. Well, actually, afternoon. Hello.
It's afternoon, right?
It is afternoon. It is. Hi.
So everything sounds better from Belinda because she has that lovely accent. But sometimes the news is legitimately better than we're used to hearing. I feel like that's the case today.
Yeah. Well, let's just do a little bit of reality check and where we're at with the climate. Shall we do that? Because I thought it was really, I'm a huge fan of Pete Buttigieg, our transport secretary. Our audience might have heard me say this before. He's just so literate when it comes to the climate. And, he was telling us on Sunday that this turbulence that's affecting flights, international and national flights, is being exacerbated by climate change. And I love how he then puts it, because he's so, I'll say polite, so polite. The climate is evolving, so policy, technology, infrastructure have to evolve. I mean, there was the Singapore Airlines flight earlier this month where 30 people were injured with the turbulence, the plane bouncing up and down. One person on that flight died. We just had a Qatar Airlines over Turkey. They had 12 people injured by the crazy turbulence. NOAA announced this month that the hurricanes we're going to get are going to be, the named ones. The serious ones, the ones where the winds get up to 111 miles an hour, those, we're going to have more of them, more hurricanes, more tornadoes in April than, April set a record. So all this stuff is happening with our heating up planet. The amazing thing with the turbulence, I thought this statistic was wild, that in the 40 years from 1979 to 2020, turbulence in the North Atlantic increased by 55%. So that's what's happening out there, people.
Well, I'm sorry. In the North Atlantic, that means, I'm sorry, what region is, help me, I'm sorry, I'm just an idiot.
Well, so the North Atlantic is, that's the ocean that we've got, right off the, the
right.
East Coast,
So are you,
So what's happening is that you're getting these. So what happens in Tornado Alley is you get the warm water that's coming off the Gulf, coming off the Atlantic, and it's meeting the cold air that comes down from the Rockies, and that's what makes the tornadoes so crazy. But they're just saying that, we've been measuring it, we've been looking at what's happening in the atmosphere.
But is that Tornado Alley is not the North Atlantic, is it?
Well, the thing is, the hot air is coming off the oceans.
Right. So what I'm just getting at, when you talk about severe weather, obviously, the hurricane formation is the greatest energy transfer that the planet is capable of from hemisphere to hemisphere. I mean, there is no greater transfer of energy at one time than that which is associated with tropical weather and hurricanes moving that heat energy from the ocean to another hemisphere. So I don't mean to obsess on this, but I do know a little something about this. I was just curious about the statistic, because are they saying that turbulence over the northern Atlantic, which is what you said, is the worst in 40 years? Are these the updrafts that are formed from rising air masses as a result of heat? I don't mean to get too into the weeds, but I'm struck by this.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I have to say, I don't know. I know about the hurricanes and Tornado Alley and that being the cold and the hot air mixing, and I would imagine turbulence is that as well. You're going from one air pocket, which is one pressure, into another one.
I see. Okay.
But North Atlantic is the northern hemisphere. That's our big ocean in the northern hemisphere.
So the
Qatar
point is,
the other day was over Turkey. So this is the northern hemisphere that we're talking about. And if you've ever looked at that amazing map that's on NOAA's website, it shows you the incredible, rate of emissions. That there are just so much more of them in the northern hemisphere than there are in the southern hemisphere, because there's more going on. There's more land. There's, there are more.
Oh, that's interesting. That actually, I need to see that. I haven't seen that.
I'll tweet it to you, because it's
would you?
Really wild. When you see it and you kind of go, oh wow. And it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of stuff happening in the southern hemisphere, because there's major stuff happening down there. It's just we produce more emissions up here because the bulk of the world, the global population, is north of the equator, around the equator of north.
Yeah, someone died from this turbulence, as Lori points out. Yeah, so much for it's just a little turbulence. Don't worry. I mean, turbulence represents a real threat now, doesn't it?
Yeah. And he did have a heart condition, that guy. They did say that, but it's still that's very intense. And when you look at what the planes look like afterwards, with all the overhead bins open, and you think about things flying out, and how, I find just, when you're in the plane and it does one of those sort of precipitous kind of drops when you hit turbulence, I don't like that. That's not
No, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. I mean, I think that it's alarming. No matter what, you never know what's going to happen. So anyway, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a wake up call. It's a wake up call what's happening, and it's game on.
So that's the. But I thought you had some good news today.
Oh, I do. Of course, I do. Come on, you know me.
Right. Give me some good climate news. Some good. Man is capable of doing good things, also, right?
Well, this is. We talked about this last week, and I think this is so important because people get very. The doom and gloom is really hard to hear. But, I'm always saying this, sort of beating this drum, is that, there are all these incredible innovators out there who have been on this for years. What can we do? How can we change the way we do things? So there are two really big polluting industries. One of them is concrete, which is enormous. So concrete is the most used resource on the planet after water. And, basically our world, the sort of the basis of the modern world is, cement. And how do we make cement? So cement is the thing that binds the aggregate and the sand together to make the concrete. How do we get cement? Cement comes from calcium carbonate, CaCO3. And you have to heat it up to these ridiculously hot temperatures to basically to push the CO2 out and into the atmosphere and just be left with the cement. So you have to heat it up to 1600 degrees centigrade. And then you get the cement. And what they say is that, concrete is like a nation when it comes to creating greenhouse gas emissions. It's right behind, when you line it up, you've got China, they make a lot of concrete. And then you've got the US, we're the biggest two emitters, and then you've got concrete. If concrete was a nation, it would be the third biggest emitter in the world. Wow. So these UK scientists, and you've got to love this, because there are, all these people who are really thinking about this, and how can we take something that's as important as concrete? We need it, we need it for our buildings. How can we manufacture this without creating? Right now, the manufacture of a ton of concrete creates a ton of CO2 emissions. It's kind of crazy that they're equal. So what they have worked out is that if we can recycle, basically get the cement out of concrete when we're, demolishing buildings, we can, and if we can recycle that cement, basically we don't have to manufacture new cement. So that's a win. If we can do it using renewable energy, so we're not using fossil fuels, because you also have to heat it up to really, really, crazy, temperatures again. And what the scientists worked out, and this is another hugely, carbon producing industry, steel. So steel needs incredibly high temperatures as well, because it's made from iron, and iron in the when you get the iron ore has got oxygen stuck to it, and you've got to get the oxygen off. So you use coal to do that, and that makes CO2 and blah blah blah. But what these scientists out of Cambridge were observing the recycling of steel, and it has to have this slag over top of it, because the slag stops the molten steel, which is at a very high temperature, from interacting with the air. Well, the slag, it turns out, is the same as cement, the composition of it. So their thing is, hey, while we're recycling the steel, let's put a layer of cement on top so we can reactivate, get it down to just, the core cement, and we can kill two birds with one stone. And if we use renewable energy, if we use solar and wind power, we decarbonize it completely. And other materials scientists are going, okay, guys, this is genius. And they have created their first, so they call it's a furnace arc to get these huge high temperatures. You showed a picture of it. They've created their first high quality, Portland grade cement using this process. And what they are estimating in the UK is that they could, using this recycling process, actually create a quarter of the cement that is used in the UK. Quarter of the cement, quarter of the concrete, you could use it from recycling. And that's always a win, because then you're not using, you're not, making it from scratch. And then also the other thing is slag, which is, they put on top of the steel, it's a hugely, polluting process to make that. So you would cut out, the need for slag. You'd have your own. So I just am always excited about.
Well, it's a huge innovation. I know you're always excited about these innovations, but this is huge, as you say, to take something that is a massive greenhouse gas emitter and somehow turn it into a recyclable sort of cycle here. I mean, it's crazy, crazy good. And so the recycled concrete acts as the slag, and you end up in this. It's a much more. I would think, even in addition to being a much more efficient process, ultimately it could be, you could bring costs down too, right? You don't need to bring in new material, or am I wrong about that?
Exactly. Yeah. You're not creating the whole, concrete material from scratch. You're recycling, and that's the thing we're talking about all the time. How can we get sustainable and right-sized? And a big part of it is reusing the resources that are already, in the world. I mean, this is the other thing is, it's going to be a bit of a David and Goliath fight, because the concrete industry is $1 billion, industry. And, when they see their profits, like, oh, what do you mean 25% of it's going to be coming from recycled, they call it electric cement. We don't like the sound of that. Be like the fossil fuel industry. But the fact is, we have to do this stuff, and it's going to happen. And right now, we're in a good position here. I beat this drum quite often, but we have an administration that really believes in climate change and has provided all this money in the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and businesses that can prove that they're reducing carbon. The time is it's happening now, and so that's why, listeners, it's very important who you vote for.
Yes, I mean, it is true that there's a radical clinging to the past and sort of nothing to see here and the old way things were done. That really. That kind of thinking has led to where we are, this predicament. And so you're right about and when you bring it back to the vote, because I remember one of the first things that the last administration did was they eliminated any reference to climate change and any climate program from the NOAA website, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration website. I mean, these are official government websites. I'm not saying you have to turn your entire platform into green energy, but the notion that you would not any longer tolerate even an acknowledgement of a climate crisis is insane to me. I mean, it's just walking right off the cliff.
It absolutely does not make sense. And particularly, we've got this, crazy, these hurricanes that are coming, we've got this turbulence that's affecting air travel. I mean, and this isn't going to stop. It's not like suddenly we get awareness about it. I mean, there's a thing happening here in California with the beetles. So we've got these beetles that are natives. They're part of the ecology. They're important. They chew up detritus on the floor of the forest, and they help it, to get reabsorbed, those nutrients reabsorbed into the soil. But what's happened is they are now destroying redwoods because the redwoods are stressed by the way the rain is falling. It's too much rain. That the redwoods like a snowpack, and then for the rain, for the snowpack to melt and come, slowly down into the water table for them. They don't want all this rain, and they've been compromised by fires, and so they're being really hurt by these beetles. And these beetles are natives, like the redwoods are. Things are out of whack, and we need these sort of innovations. I mean, there's another one that out of Boston called Boston Metal, and they're looking at a new way to make steel that will really cut the emissions. It's a molten oxide electrolysis. So it's a whole different way to make the steel. Yeah, Mo.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Mo. And if you use also renewable electricity to do that, then and it's a huge CO2 emitter, just because of, as I was describing before, you have to take iron ore and blast it with hot coal, and which just shoots out CO2, but that's to get the oxides off the iron ore that you're taking out of the ground. So yeah, it's there's all this hope and all these amazing things that are happening, and we need to have leaders. As Pete Buttigieg said about this turbulence. The climate's evolving. So does our policy, our technology, and our infrastructure needs to evolve too. And here we have two examples of how we can do that.
We are such an innovative species. I mean, really marked by immense innovations. And so these innovations that are designed to take some of the former innovations and make them sustainable or more sustainable, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that these new innovations and technological advancements should be embraced. I mean, it is just part of what we do as a species, innovate. So yeah. I hope that it is. It's the
forward momentum of our society. How
right, and the fact that it's been turned political, it's just that means money, of course, because money rules the day in not only American politics but worldwide. I love your stuff. I'll retweet it. I think I've already retweeted a couple of items. And we love our visits with you, Belinda. You can find Belinda with the world of social media being what it is at Belinda Waymouth, Waymouth. Thank you, Belinda.
My pleasure.
It's The Planet Stupid for today.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
More.
It's The Planet Stupid. No. It's The Planet Stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Everything sounds better from Belinda. Now, she's not British, Albert. You just got back from
she's a Kiwi,
England.
I believe. Yes.
Yes, New Zealand. Right. But it still sounds better.
Lots of fancy accents, lots of wrong side. I wasn't used to looking right first when crossing the street. So
they have those arrows on the street, right? Because they have so many tourists in London.
Yeah, so I wasn't used
to
that.
Look this way, it says. Yeah, right. Wes, big shout out, Wes.
Shout out.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you to everybody who supports the show. Super sticker from Wes for a 5 spot. Thank you, sir. Smash that like button if you would, please. For those of you who haven't gotten to it yet, it does matter in the world of YouTube. And, when you leave a comment or anything like that, that helps. I don't really understand how YouTube works. We're all just carbon dust in the wind. Thank you, B.A. Ware. And Merry Christmas to you, too. It's big shout out.
Big shout out.
I don't really understand how the algorithm works, but it does look at engagement and stuff like that. So appreciate any comments you have or any thoughts you have or whatever. That's always something that we both read for substantive reasons. And as I say, it helps our channel as well. So thank you for all the support. Albert, is there anything else I need to do before we bid farewell to a Wednesday show?
I believe we're all caught up. Yeah.
Kim, do you have anything that you'd like to air? Maybe a grievance, a new grievance that you might have?
Kim, how are you?
Oh, I have a lot of grievances.
No, I'm sure you do.
No, before we roll on, I would like to just note that the jury in the Trump trial, because we're now on verdict watch, right?
Sure.
They have sent another note to the court officer, handing another sheet to each side. The judge says, we received another jury note. They're requesting to rehear the judge's instructions. So, and I guess they'd also like to rehear some testimony in this case.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Right. I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
Maybe DJT can stick his head in one more time to reiterate how honest he is. I think the jury instructions, as we were talking with David Katz and David K. Johnston, Katz joins us, of course, tomorrow. The jury instructions are critical because, if you find that such and such happened, then you must issue a guilty verdict. If you find that such and such happened, but this third thing did not happen, in the case of the Trump trial, maybe knowledge of the act of violating law, then you must vote to acquit. And then, of course, there's everything in between, which could lead to a hung jury. The preponderance of opinion, preponderance is a ding word, is that there will not be an acquittal. The preponderance of opinion is that it'll either be a conviction or it will be a hung jury. You only need one to hang it, and we've discussed all those possibilities. But that is interesting always to look at and learn what the jury wants to investigate and see.
So the judge right now is bringing the jury back into the courtroom to try to figure out if they want to hear all of the instructions again or part of the instructions again. Meanwhile, the defense attorneys are smiling, thinking this is all going to benefit them.
Oh, wow.
So
How
that's the
about
latest.
that? Well, very, very well told, Kim. And now we shall see.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I don't want to leave. I actually left a segment on the table today that I wanted to do. So what do I do?
My bad. I'm sorry.
I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Copy and paste it for tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah, copy and paste. Exactly. The controversy about the new drops continues for tomorrow.
Baby girl, don't even play.
Yeah. Baby girl, don't even play, Albert. We picked that up while you were away, and it's really...
Do you know what we're here for?
Kind of a big deal.
Don't allow the worst president in the history of our country to come back and do the final destruction of America.
Thank you very much. Albert, it's great to have you back, sir. Kim, I hope your situation chills a little bit.
Yeah.
The After Party Live is next over on the After Party Live channel. Till tomorrow, everyone.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
We have got a great show with David Katz tomorrow.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Brilliant legal analyst and a That's Rich segment. That's terrific. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.